we've been doing it for 2 years. I'm the person on record. Good.
I'm going back to my desk over there.
Yeah, because that's, they do their best at tomfoolery. Yeah. To get you to sound.
Yeah.
Those is what
Yes,
is the same box.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. The box cut.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all.
What's that? No, I'm all right with that. I've seen it before. Yeah. No. Nope. I've seen it before. I'm good. Anyway.
He does a good job.
Yeah. It's going to be his first time by himself.
Oh.
This is going down.
I'm going to sit there and make fun of him while he does it.
Yeah. Let him hang for a while.
He's got everything set up. I think he's ready to go.
Who's it?
He's in a training conference in Wisconsin Dells.
Huh? That's not a bad place. Isn't it amazing how those training conferences always end up in nice places?
Yeah. Nobody's in the middle of nowhere, Kansas.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't go to Wichita for training conferences.
And last one he went to was San Diego.
Oh, really?
Or San Francisco, sorry.
Well, either one of those.
Hmm? Do you know what you're doing in there? Are you asking?
No, I think that's all.
Any questions on agenda? You guys got figured out.
Jamie, CWP architect.
Oh, okay, good one.
Contract on it. Should be on the.
Close it?
Sometimes they still have questions.
Yeah, one on the consent.
Okay, you use that.
What was that on?
Just open up the page. Did you?
Exterior wayfinding signage
Oh, yeah. Fred,
to our.
I didn't know you was still alive.
Oh yeah, I'm just out of my little hole. I pop up every now and then.
And it's similar to that's all
Yeah, run back. I'll be right back.
There should be more.
I am. Maybe, okay.
What's going on, Don?
Hey, Renee.
Hi. Moving right along.
I do
Oh,
better.
yeah.
Good job.
Feeling better now that I see you sitting there.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Welcome
I
to
know
the
we're gonna
Sarpy County
rock and
Board
roll
of
today.
Equalization meeting.
Far.
3:00 p.m. Please silence all cell phones. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located on the north wall of the county boardroom. We'll call the meeting to order. We have present today Commissioner Kelly, Klug, Warren, Mixon, and Burmeister, along with our county administrator, Dan Hoynes, who will be here in just a minute, and our deputy county clerk, Renee Landsman, and our county assessor, Dan Pittman. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We also have present today our county treasurer, Jeff Mikesell. We'll start with the consent equalization agenda. Would anyone like to see any items removed from the consent agenda? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Klug. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item number 5.1 is tax corrections 17278 to 17280. Dan Pittman, County Assessor.
Good afternoon. This is one taxpayer for 3 years that had personal property that was recognized as having a situs in one tax district when actually it was in another. So we had to move it to the right tax district, apply the right tax rate, and then tax them accordingly.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Kelly, second by Commissioner Mixon. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
All agenda items having been addressed as published, the Board of Equalization is adjourned. We'll reset for the Board of Commissioners.
I am ready.
All right, welcome to the Sarpy County Board of Commissioners meeting. Today is September 26, 2023. It's 3:02 p.m. We have present today Commissioners Kelly, Klug, Warren, Mixon, and Burmeister, along with our County Administrator Dan Hoynes and our Deputy County Clerk Renee Landsman. We'll start with Commissioner Administrator announcements and comments, starting with Commissioner Kelly.
Nothing, thanks.
No comments, thank you.
No comments.
None, thank you.
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Would anyone like to see any items removed from the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Sorry,
You want one?
I want to pull one off.
I'll let you make a motion.
Okay, I want to approve the consent agenda, but I want to move the 411 treasurer list of real property offered to the regular agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion to approve the consent agenda minus item 4.11 by Commissioner Kelly, second by Commissioner Klug. Any discussion? Please vote.
I don't have a vote. There it is.
None. Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 411 is treasurer's list of real property offered but not sold for want of bidders at annual tax sale. Dan Talakis, Chief Deputy Treasurer.
Hey, Dan, I apologize for having to come up. I just didn't get a chance to call you. I was looking at the property that's up for sale, and one of them's a lake in the middle of a subdivision. I mean, how does that work? I mean, how do we have a separate tax parcel for a lake community that's surrounded by houses? And if some taxpayer came in and just bought the lake, could they dictate the terms of the use of that lake for the people that have houses around it?
I actually don't know the answer to that question. Dan, is Dan left? Yeah, sure. Do you have any information on how that platting works?
So it just for you guys, if you didn't get a chance, it's down in Village Springs. And it's a lake right in the middle of a bunch of houses. So I'm going, that doesn't make sense.
And do you know where that lake's located?
Where?
The lake is located where?
It's in Village Springs.
Villa Springs?
Yeah.
Well, typically in housing developments, say like Hanson Chris Lakes, the lake itself would be an outlot, and the value of the lake is tied in with the neighboring parcels, the actual
Okay.
houses. So you absorb that value of the lake in the sale of each house. So
It'd be like a homeowners association would then cover the cost of that, I would
you
assume?
know, without having more data on it, you know, I can certainly
Okay.
research it and answer the question, but typically a lake would, the value of the lake itself would be tied into the adjoining lots where the houses are. Now, if you get a lake with no houses around it, typically there's a value put on that. And if it's a lake in agricultural land, if it's dry row crop up to the banks of the lake, the value of the lake is basically dry row crop too, because there's no other way of us determining what its actual value is, unless it's a sand pit that's settling and something different.
Okay, thanks, I appreciate it. I would just, you know, I'm gonna vote for this, but I would recommend you like try to reach out to the homeowners association down there and say, hey,
We certainly can. And this list is only provided for your information at this board meeting. Next week, you will have to take action on whether or not you want to move these into county tax sales.
Okay.
So within that next week, I can certainly get you some more information on that.
So how much can you buy a lake for, Don?
whatever the back taxes are, and it's not very much. So I could own a lake.
Then you buy a house down there, now you got it made.
So the motion would just be to approve the list?
Right now, you're just approving seeing the list so that you can
Okay.
take action next time.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. Motion to approve by Commissioner Kelly, second by Commissioner Klug. It's not the only one like that, by the way, and it's problematic what you can do, I know from experience. Any discussion? Please vote.
Yeas 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 5.1 is public hearing tabled from July 18, 2023 and August 29, 2023 was not closed. Possible vacation of 232nd Street, Angus Road, and Lincoln Road. Denny Wilson, County Engineer, or Scott Bovick, Deputy County.
Thank you, Commissioner. Denny and I continue to meet with the Homeowners Association. They have a request to vacate pending. Continue to make progress. It's not as simple as their vacation, so they're being patient with us as we work through some of the issues in the area. So at this time, in working with the property owners, we want to ask the board to continue this public hearing to October 31st. I know you don't typically continue these public hearings and multiple times, but we do really think we wanted to do that without having the property owners rescind a vacation request at this time. So that preserves their ability to still consider that as we work through the issues with them. I can answer any questions, and I know Denny can too, but we probably want to preserve that for the October 31st public hearing.
Is there anybody here to?
You can ask. I don't think so. We talked with the property owners and told them they didn't need to be
Okay.
here, but you might ask if there is anyone.
Is there anybody here for the public hearing on this matter?
I don't see anybody.
Did someone want to make a motion to?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion to table by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Kelly. Any discussion? Please vote.
Yeas 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 5.2 is public hearing and recommendation to Liquor Control Commission, Come and Go LC, DBA Come and Go number 2340, application for a Class D beer, wine, distilled spirits, off-sale only liquor license for business at 11333 Cumberland Drive, Papillion, Nebraska 68046, Sarpy County. Jonathan Mileham, manager. And the applicant is welcome to come forward if they want to, but aren't required to do so.
Yep.
And this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to come forward on this application? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Klug. Any discussion? Please vote.
Yeas 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 5.3 is discussion, parking master plan, Beth Garber, Assistant County Administrator, and Caitlin Bolte, confluence.
I'll jump in, represent Beth today. So in 2022, the fall of 2022, the county board approved a contract with Confluence, of which Ms. Bolte, or no, Dolores, how you doing there? We know each other from another life with a big butterfly on it, but I didn't know Caitlin's here. So Dolores, welcome. But for the last year, Dolores has been working with purchasing and other various departments and stuff to address the long-term parking. And there's been multiple goals, board members, that we want to achieve over about a 4-year period. This agenda item is simply for Dolores and Confluence to present to you the proposed phases. There's 5 phases. A subsequent agenda item immediately following this will be asking you to begin the design of phase 1 and phase 2, which is in the proposed budget you're going to vote on today. Not the full plan, but I felt it was really important to get Dolores and her team in front of you and talk about why we did this, the improved circulation, the pedestrian safety, and overall what we're trying to do is enhance the look of the campus and the safety of those particular things. So I'm going to pause there just with a final comment before asking Dolores to come up and tell you that the next item will begin this, but at each phase, the board's going to be, over the next 3 or 4 years, be able to look at it, identify it, vote on it when we come through. But this is your 30,000 foot level. So Dolores, if you don't mind, if you could come up and just do a brief introduction to the board about what your office has done with Beth and kind of what the 30,000 foot of what we need and why do we need it, Dolores. So I'll turn it, Madam Chair, over to Ms. Silkworth.
Thank you. Dolores Silkworth with Confluence. Pleasure to be here. This has a fairly utilitarian name of a parking master plan, but really this is your front door to an important public institution. And as we started to look at the functional requirements necessary for the site, we also thought very long and hard about what it would take for this campus to present itself in its best light to the public as one of permanence and growth and all of the good things that Sarpy County is doing. Dan mentioned the primary goals that we identified early on in the process of beauty and maximizing parking, improving that sense of arrival, enhancing that pedestrian circulation, and making a system that is continuous so that when the pedestrian becomes a pedestrian, parks the car, gets out of the car, that there's a clear and easy path for them to get to the buildings. Promoting safety and calmness throughout the campus. We took a few months to do this work with multiple touch points through it, and all of this work happened late last fall. From last fall until now, we've had some minor corrections that have been made to the plan to make it a little bit better. Of course, you know the site. This aerial photograph is one that was taken before the new jail was actually completed, so that is different. And when we look at the overall master plan, you can see that it does imagine that the old jail is removed and parking is placed here. It looks at the relatively recent acquisition of the properties to the north and improving that pedestrian connection, and also slowing traffic down on the road and giving the vehicles a chance to give pedestrians that needed time to cross that road. It improves the circulation from an automobile standpoint on the existing parking lots, does a slight realignment. It does pave the area where the annex came down late last fall, or early this spring. Time goes by so fast. And then it provides a very nice entry to the administration side of the complex. You can see that there are sidewalks all the way through, all of the parking areas, and there are tree plantings that happen within the parking lots themselves. This plan has a total of 724 spaces, which staff believes is adequate. Today you have 555. There is a continuous loop of pedestrian circulation that goes around and through campus. This is almost 2/3 of a mile long, so when you need a break, you could take 15 minutes and do that without making many crossings. Phase 1 includes placing parking on the former site of the annex, and is a very simple plan of just paving and providing the necessary stormwater. There will be a grade change between the lot to the east and the lot here, much as you see it today. This would
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So what kind of trees are those?
The trees have not yet been named. They would be shade trees that would provide a good amount of shade. We haven't selected the exact species yet.
Okay.
Is there something that you're concerned about?
Well, I'm just interested in parking, not shade. But I was wondering how many parking spots we lose because we're planting trees in the middle of a parking lot.
This particular parking lot really doesn't, we would not gain anything. The majority of these trees are planted on that slope, so we can't put a parking stall there anyway.
Okay.
So that is that one. We have some precedent images that we've included in the master plan that starts to show a vision of signage and wayfinding, lighting that would be throughout the parking areas, as well as highlighting pedestrian zones and those entrances. The idea of having continuous walkways through that are protected for your pedestrians, and site furniture and some shade in some of the permanent shades in some of the high pedestrian areas. So some of the before and after pictures, of course, this photo was taken when the building was still in existence, and there's quite a bit of grade change from one side to the other. And when that building gets removed and trees, these are the trees that are just, would be planted on that bank, and we'd pave that parking. We are also suggesting tree plantings all along the major roadways. Another perspective of the new entry plaza at the administration building by providing pavement that can be accessed with service vehicles. We think that we can make the majority of the area look pedestrian and provide areas for outdoor seating and meeting, waiting. And looking at the west side of the campus, this is what it would look like with the old jail removed and new parking. This, of course, is the area where most of those stalls are realized and will help, service all of those courtrooms that happen on this side of the campus. Looking at that connection to the north, this is the idea that we would provide some pedestrian crossings here, change the pavement a little bit to cause folks to slow down. Planting trees within that tree line will also cause people to slow down naturally. These are the pieces of furniture that were selected as a unifying campus component. They're simple, they're long-lived, high-quality pieces that should last 25 or 30 years without really much concern or attention. The light fixtures would be a combination of utilitarian light fixtures, much as matching what you have on site today, with some accent lightings in those high pedestrian and entry areas. The plan also accommodates those future signage elements for signage and wayfinding. We've looked at landscape zones within the campus of identifying different types of landscape that would happen, whether it's the yellow parking areas or the green-blue streetscapes, ideas, definition plantings in the front of the buildings and the corner, bioretention, maintaining what you currently have or providing new bioretention for reconfigured and repaved parking areas. So the phases that this plan has been divided in is phase one would complete that parking where the annex was and address the front of the administration building. Phase two would address the connections to the north and a realigned entry here, setting up for the phase three that would be the removal of the old jail and parking brought in. Phase four would realign all of the parking lots that are essentially there today and simplify circulation and provide pedestrian, continuous pedestrian movement. 4B is the idea that this building, the former automotive building, gets removed and is essentially just placed in reserve with some landscaping so that future growth might happen there in some way, whether that's parking or building, and then some landscaping out front. The expected costs are about $8 million with all of those phases. The first two phases are right here, just each one of those under $2 million, 1.9 and 1.9, if we round. So that is pretty much the plan and the presentation, and happy to answer any kinds of questions that you might have.
Questions?
So can you put back the map with, there you go, any of those with the whole campus?
I'll get to the,
There you go. So that area in between that parking area right there in the middle, very middle, no, to your left, right by number 10.
this guy.
No, number 10.
Oh, this one.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, yes.
So is that like the service park lot, or, I mean, who parks there?
It is gated, and it's my understanding that attorneys and judges and staff generally park within there.
So like, where would like service vehicles deliver things? Is there a service entrance somewhere in any of this that would allow for that?
The trash is currently set up in this area, and, and the service, yeah, let me see if I can just zoom in, but it would be paved in that area and allow for the traffic movement. It could also be a place for service deliveries, other kinds of deliveries. This is where your dock is.
So you can drive across that?
You can drive across it, but it wouldn't look like something that just anybody can drive over.
Okay,
You know.
thanks.
Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5.4 is Resolution 2023-282, Professional Services Agreement with Confluence for Phase 1 and Phase 2 Design Services of Parking Master Plan, including but not limited to design and engineering service for parking lot expansions of the East Annex space, improvements to the administration entrance, and improvement of pedestrian crossing of Golden Gate Drive in the amount of $280,545. Beth Garber, Assistant County Administrator. Dan Hoyt.
I'll pinch it again. Thank you, Madam Chair. So as I referenced, this item actually, if you approve it, would authorize the contract for $280,545 with Confluence to begin design and construction of Phase 1 and Phase 2. So your commit to the spend is saying, go ahead and design it. And then when the design is complete, and these services are in the current budget for design in the general fund, we'll use the CMAR process for both construction phases. The CMAR process will begin in the fall, winter of 23, with the board approving the guaranteed maximum price amendment for the phases independently. So that's the $1.8 million, the only appropriation for this entire plan, to be very clear, in this proposed budget. It's important to say, long-term, we believe in today's dollars at 7.8, but today you're committing to begin the design, the CMAR process. That will come back and you can get a vote on, or a discussion on what kind of trees we have, where the more granular stuff that comes in. But this will begin the design, I think, of a long way. And I think Dolores had mentioned it. We're actually, once we get the jail knocked down, increasing parking by a couple of hundred spaces, which is pretty significant on this restricted campus. So I'll pause there, Madam Chair, and answer any questions the board may have on this contract.
Questions for Dan?
I realize professional services don't require a bid. Was this process bid out?
Parking master plan, no, it was not.
On this one, we did not do a formal bid, but I know that Beth talked to area design firms, and they all recommended working with Confluence because they specialize in the parking lot and the landscape architecture. So that was how we arrived with Confluence on this one.
Will we have, once the design is done, will we have the ability to make changes to it at that point?
Absolutely. Our typical cadence is, before it shows up on this day, we'll show up on an executive briefing or independent discussion, show you what kind of trees we're putting in, what the bids are, and where they're at. So we'll do advance work, and then you'll get a public vote on it.
Yeah.
Commissioner Kelly.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner
I have one
Klug.
more question. How are we paying for this?
These are programmed in the general fund, these expenses.
Thanks.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Klug. Is there a second? I'll second it. Second by Burmeister. So we're not voting, so all of the phases for the actual spend for the parking itself would be bid and done through a CMAR process, and we're not committing to that today, correct?
That is correct, Chair Burmeister. It will, much as we did this year during the budget process, we recommended, will you fund Phase 1? And that's in the proposed budget. Next year, we'll come in, look at the overall budget, and make a recommendation to the board. Should we do Phase 2, 3, none? It'll go through the appropriation process.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah. So this is Phase 1 and 2 of 5 phases, if I remember right. So depending on how those are divided up, that's probably $1 million worth of, I'm assuming, worth of planning or professional fees. And I would strongly encourage at least round 2 and following rounds, that we put this out for a bid.
I understand, but I think the commitment you're making today is for the design and construction of phase 1 and 2, but the construction of phase 2, and that's $280,000 and change, Commissioner.
Right.
That's the commitment you're making.
Yeah.
Please vote. Mr. Kelly?
Well, I know, I'm thinking.
Okay. I'll wait.
This is for 1 and 2?
It is for the design only of phase 1 and phase 2.
And the total cost is 280, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 5.5 is resolution 2023. Dash 304. I'm not sure that's on.
Thank you.
Resolution 2023-304, award the low bid for the Sarpy County Courtroom number 5 and the Information Services Office renovation project to Cormachi Construction, Inc. in the amount of $259,589. Beth Garber, Assistant County Administrator, or Dan Hoynes.
I feel like I should start this presentation with the following. On August 23rd, 2023, the Purchasing Department received 5 bids for the Sarpy County Courtroom number 5 and IS Service Office renovation project. After review, we recommend the low bid to Cormachi Construction. This is Judge Martinez courtroom. It has not been renovated until since the building was probably constructed coming in, and so the bid is for the $259,589 capital projects budget general fund line item.
Questions for Dan?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Klug. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Warren. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 5.6 is Resolution 2023-297, Ninth Amendment to the Agreement for Inmate Health Care Services previously approved by Resolution 2013-209 with Correctional Healthcare Companies, LLC, WellPath for inmate healthcare services at the Sarpy County Correctional Center, SCCC, to increase the compensation amount by 5% for current staff, increase average daily population of covered inmates from 125 to 160, add dentistry service, and add 1 full-time licensed practical nurse, effective July 1, 2023. Ryan Marr, Corrections Director.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. As mentioned in the resolution, 297 is needed to approve or continue our contract with WellPath. It does add 4 hours per month of dental services, 1 additional LPN. It also includes wage increases for health services staff. We have a physician, registered nurse, 3.5 LPNs, mental health practitioner, and an advanced practice registered nurse. So they haven't had any wage increases since I've been with Sarpy County, and I fully support this request. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Ryan?
So this agreement increases the base pay by 5% per?
I don't know how that's exactly distributed. The 5% is a CPI, Consumer Price Index.
Is that the current CPI 5% or is that
That's real
projected?
close. That's what it looked like
Okay.
with our agreement last week with Douglas County.
But that's for year 2, right?
Excuse me?
The 5%'s for year 2?
I don't know how that wage distribution increases. That's the CPI index would, that 5% increase would be effective back to July 2023 this year.
Okay.
And I should mention too that we did budget for this in our FY24 budget.
So the agreement allows for annual CPI modifications with a maximum increase of 5%. So if the CPI is lower, then it's the lower rate?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, and we haven't had this is their second amendment with them, with me, and they have not done the CPI. We did not do that last year.
All
We
right.
just added the nurse practitioner hours.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ryan?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Klug. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 5.7 is Resolution 2023-298, approve the professional services agreement with Felsberg, Holt, and Ullvig for engineering services for the 48th Street and Capehart Road intersection improvement project C7723-15 in the amount of $326,024. Scott Bovick, Deputy Administrator. Is it Ullvig, by the way?
What's that?
Is FHU, is it Ullvig? How do I pronounce that last word?
I just say FHU.
Oh, okay.
Felsberg, Holt, Ullvig, I guess. I don't know. But FHU, yeah, this is an agreement with FHU. We have a good working relationship with them. Denny's office, county engineer's office, actually uses FHU for our on-call traffic engineering. The city of Bellevue also uses them, and the city of Papillion does as well. They actually only represent public clients. They don't represent private development. And so when we work with them, we know that they are focused directly on our interests. They did do a traffic study here at the intersection of 48th and Capehart, and as you know, that's a ever increasingly busy and unsafe, intersection. And so, in working with FHU on the previous study and the city of Bellevue and the development in the area, it was pretty clear that something needed to be addressed. And as the board knows, to the west, that area is going to be opened up by the sewer agency soon, and so there's going to be continued pressure on this intersection. As we were talking through the discussion with the city of Bellevue and the neighboring developments, we could have gone in and put a 3-lane intersection and just added traffic signalization, but because we know that there's going to be pressure for additional growth, all parties thought it'd be best if we went ahead and built out the intersection to the ultimate 5-lane configuration so that we don't have to go back in and redo that someday in the near future. This is really a concept design, but if you look closely at it, it basically lays out the 5-lane corridor that could be in there. The development in the area appreciates that too, because they only have to contribute once to this project, and so that's an efficient use of their resources. The city of Bellevue wants to, it's not really shown on here, but they want to talk about trails and sidewalks and kind of building out that completely urban intersection. So FHU, $326,000 to engage them. We estimate the construction to be in the neighborhood of $4 million. And we hope to have the design done middle of next year, then go through the right-of-way process middle to late next year, and hopefully be ready to get this out to bid in the fall of '24 so that it can be constructed in '25. That's the plan at this point. The developments are aware that they're going to contribute to this project, the ones that are existing to the south, and then obviously there's some potential for future development to the north. While design is occurring, I'll be working with those developments to make sure that their contributions are put in place through interlocal agreement. And the city of Bellevue also is maybe a participant in contributing to some of the features that they want. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know Denny can speak to the traffic study that was previously done and the need to get this project going.
Any questions for Scott or for Denny?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Klug. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mixon. Any discussion?
So, Scott, are they going to do anything on 52nd Street there? Or?
I don't know. I'm sure during the design they can look at how that transition would occur, and it's probably worth it to look at that.
Okay.
A little bit further to the east and west. This is really a concept that we wanted to share with the stakeholders to show us how this would look, how would it fit in there. But that's definitely something that they can look at, because we know even though we do this intersection, 5 lanes is going to need to go to the east and 5 lanes is going to need to go to the west. So we can huddle on that, make sure they look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Another question I have, Scott, is to the north, how far is 48th Street going to go? Can 48th Street, is there
If you look at this map, I don't think 48th Street continues through what would be that drainage area, which is why we've, the county board's talked a lot about getting 60th Street improved. 60th Street will be a key north-south corridor through there. And then it would be Capehart East to 36th Street, which City of Bellevue just recently expanded.
and then you had mentioned the development to the south. I think there's just a few residentials to the north on acreages on the west there, and then I don't know what's really on the east of 48th Street on the north side. But my question is, all parties, you had mentioned Bellevue is participating with, because they're adding, they want certain other features. So are they going to contribute for that as well?
Yeah, when it comes to trails and other features that they're looking at, those will be their cost responsibility. We need to get into the design and see exactly where those go. And so we need to develop that a little bit further, but Bellevue did do a good job when these developments were occurring to make sure that they got a commitment in their subdivision agreements for improvements in the area, on the roads, and also at that intersection.
Okay, I just want to make sure we've got everybody, and because everybody contributes, because this thing, you said $4 to $5 million of construction.
Correct.
Which probably will be more, I think, but okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Perfect. Let's see, did we have a motion and a second? Okay, please,
Yes.
please,
Yeah, you motion second.
please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 5.8 is Resolution 2023-294, Professional Services Agreement with Kirkham Michael and Associates for engineering services for the 108th Street improvements, Mitchell Road to Platteview Road, Project C-7723-14 in the amount of $90,345. Scott Bovick, Deputy Administrator.
So several years ago, the county board, you'll remember, you approved the intersection of 108th and Platteview and paved 3 lanes south of Platteview for several hundred feet. The area south of that is a 2-lane asphalt road, and it continues to be impacted and kind of deteriorating condition based on the heavy amount of truck traffic it gets from the Martin Marietta development or mining operation. Martin Marietta, as you know, has been in front of the county board in the last couple of years talking about an expansion to their operation down there. If they wanted to expand, they would have to secure a conditional use permit from the county board. And I say that because, at that time, we will want to make sure that the county recaptures some of the cost of the improvement of this road from Martin Marietta, not just to serve their development or their activity that's going on now, but someday when the mining operation is done, they'll want to likely convert that to development property, which will rely heavily on 108th Street. The road is a maintenance nightmare for Denny and his team and Rod Ripley, the superintendent, as you can see on those pictures. Lots of patching, lots of crack sealing, adding material to the shoulders, because these big trucks either kind of run off the road or push, residents off the road. So we really, with this improvement, we put in concrete and we'll add paved shoulders that'll help improve the road concrete. And so while this is a county project, what you see on this map in the orange is the sewer agency's jurisdiction, and right to the northeast of the Martin Marietta operation is where a lift station will be. So the orange signifies the sewer agency's jurisdiction. The area outside of that isn't technically in the sewer agency's jurisdiction, but I have had several conversations with Jeff Thompson, who's the engineer for the sewer agency, as you all know, and there's a possibility someday for that area to be able to be served by sewer if the private development invests in outfall sewer infrastructure. I say that again because if we can get this 2-lane concrete road built. The properties on the east and west side will likely be able to develop on that and then contribute back to the county. And so, asking the board for authorization to go ahead and design this improvement. We'll continue to work with Martin Marietta. We'll continue to understand development in that area, but there's a strong possibility that any cost outlaid for this project will be able to be recaptured from future development. That I can answer any questions, and I know Denny can as well, and can speak to the challenges they face on doing the maintenance on this road.
Questions for Scott or for Denny?
Scott, do we get any contributions or from Martin Marietta at all? I mean, obviously this road's being used, but they're the primary users of the road. I know they pay taxes, but I'm just curious because, when you're driving that heavy equipment, that is, it takes a toll on this. Obviously, that's why you're bringing it in front of us. So I'm just curious on that.
At this point, I don't believe that we get any contribution from them, but they are well aware that if they want to expand their operation, which they do, that'll be an opportunity for us to collect that recapture. In some areas of the county where we have mining operations and heavy truck traffic, if it's a rock road, we do require them to contribute towards rock and spraying to treat the road to keep the dust down. But on this one, put an asphalt road there many, many years ago to serve them, and I don't know if they contributed to that, but we'll make sure as they expand or if they sell to a developer who wants to develop that property, that developer will have to contribute to this road. So I think that that's the opportunity for us to be able to do it. But I'd have to ask Denny if he has any other history than what I just told you.
Good afternoon. We did not receive anything. We've talked with them on several occasions about how they're going to be crossing through that land and such. As Scott said, unfortunately, we don't have a hammer to really do much about that. So we're hopeful that as again it starts to expand, we'll have the opportunity to do so. And that's when we'd have the opportunity to do additional payments on that road.
I just look at it as it would be a community-friendly neighbor gesture, especially, and again, I know they're paying taxes, but again, the bulk of that. And I know we've had this come up with, I believe, Lyman Ritchie on theirs with the gravel and everything, and I believe there was some contribution or
that's true
in the past. So again, it's just kind of being a good neighbor, etc. So thank you, appreciate it.
Sure.
Any other questions for Denny or for Scott?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Klug, second by Commissioner Kelly. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 5.9 is Resolution 2023-299, set Sarpy County tax request for 2024 fiscal year. Bill Conley, CFO.
Good afternoon. This agenda item culminates 6 months of work by a lot of people, the Budget Committee, all of our elected officials, department heads, the fiscal office, and as you know, on August 22nd, we had a public hearing in this room, at which time I spent the better part of an hour going through in detail the proposed budget for fiscal 2024. And this board has approved the budget, and today before you is a resolution to finalize the 2024 budget so that we can submit it to the state auditor by the end of the week by setting the tax levy and setting that levy at
$1,28496, which is the same levy as what we had for fiscal 2023. So I think I've spent a lot of time talking about the budget. I didn't plan to today. I'd open it up for any questions or discussion at that point.
Questions for Bill?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Klug. Is there a second?
Is there anybody here from the public that came to discuss this matter? Okay.
Is there a second? I'll make a second. Burmeister. Discussion?
I'm going to throw out just a few comments because obviously, yes, we did not raise the levy, but the other side of that is assessed values have gone up quite a bit, and they've been going up. And so to sit here, everybody on this board not increase the levy. Just about every taxpayer in Sarpy County is going to have an increase in taxes. Now, it's not all, there's several taxing authorities that make up that tax bill. I mean, we've talked about this in our meetings, et cetera. Sarpy County's portion represents of a dollar bill about 13 cents of that. Then that's not to say that we don't take it lightly on the budget we are responsible for. The budget committee, all of the public officials in this room that manage their departments are looking at ways, and I'm going to just challenge everyone forward. We have to find ways to do the best job that we can for the taxpayers. I think we do a fairly good job, but I think we can do a better job. And this isn't pointing at anybody in particular or anything. It's just, we have to watch how we spend money. And I mean, we've just been spending a lot of money here on what we've been approving. And I guess the comment I'm gonna make is it's not, I mean, you have the schools are the biggest chunk, and I'm not saying be mad at schools, we need education. There are other taxing authorities as well. You have the cities, if you live in one of the cities. And so with all of that, we are starting to come to a point of taxing people out of their homes. And we have to figure it out because, and this is my opinion, and well, this is a strong opinion from me. The state of Nebraska has put too much emphasis on property tax in the state, and anybody that owns land, houses, apartment buildings, et cetera, everybody that owns something is paying the bulk of the taxes. And I just don't think that is a fair way to do it. Now, we've been doing it for a long time, and obviously what's driving a lot of this up is the last 3 years have been crazy with assessed values going up. I would welcome anybody if we could put a cap on assessed values. I think we've talked about assessed values in these meetings at the Board of Equalization. What does assessed value mean? What are we playing? I mean, what game do we have? Is it a game? Is it, how are you going to tax people fairly and equitably? You know, it's not a proven science by any means. But I also will bring up one point here because we have a $70 million budget, and $15.2 million in that budget
comes directly from actions of the state legislature, unfunded mandates. We've been fighting this for the last 2 years to try to get a bill passed that the legislature cannot pass on to the counties going forward. Any bill that carries a fiscal note that is pushed down to the counties, because then we are the ones that have to then apply that and put it into property tax or whatever tax it is. And it's 15.2 million is almost 22% of our budget. And these are items that somebody in the legislature said, hey, we want you to do this, you figure out how to fund it. We have to stop that. I think Governor Pillen, I know Governor Pillen is on the right track. He is going to really try to tackle the burden of property taxes, because we have to change where we are really doing a disservice to our taxpayers. Thank you.
Other discussion?
Yeah, just simple comment. I was not able to go to the meeting the other night. I think Dave did, and appreciate you and Dan being there on behalf of the county. But I listened to a good chunk of it, and just to the taxpayers, I'm listening. I'm listening to my my neighbors. I'm listening to my family. I'm listening to those on the outside. I made the comment this week, I'll never vote for a budget again that puts us in the situation that we have to be in a 644 meeting. Now, somebody told me once, keep your powder dry, never make those kind of promises. I promise. And I actually thought about this morning, then why am I even voting for this budget? And I am going to vote for this budget, and I'm going to vote for this levy increase, although I tried my best in the midst of the budget process to get some changes done so that we didn't have to go to this additional increase. But I think it was justified as to why we needed to spend that additional money. I strongly encourage voters to come out to the budget process, come out to the budget meetings, come out to the budget hearings. I've been involved in city and county government for 25 years on boards or as elected official, and I can count on one hand the number of times and the number of people that have ever showed up to those meetings. We need your support, we need your backing, and we need your assistance in making changes to property tax. Thank you.
So, great budget this year, Bill. Appreciate your work. We increased our reserve significantly, about $5 million. So there was a part of me that said, hey, why don't we take half of that back and give it back to the people? Because at the end of the day, it's not our money. It's their money. But I'm reluctant to do that or even suggest that we do that, because there's a lot of things we control, but there's one thing we don't control. And that's the economic forces that are going on in our country right now. And having an ample reserve will protect us from having to increase taxes in the future. And the last thing, first of all, people don't want to pay more taxes, but the last thing they want is to be on the end of a whipsaw where we lower them one year and then we raise them the next year. It's a credibility issue. It doesn't make sense. So our CFO and this board has set this county up in a financial position that's going to protect us from that. And it's going to allow us to do things like build jails and roads and other things that provide services to the county without increasing the tax rate. I think all of us did about 10 emails since the 644 hearing about, please don't raise our taxes, please don't. And I wrote every single one of them back a nice response and pledged to meet with any of them to answer their questions, because quite frankly, it's a complicated system here in Nebraska. It almost takes a PhD to figure out how we fund and pay for things like schools and counties and cities. And unfortunately, because the taxes are collected by the county, a lot of people think that this county board, gets all of it. All we really do is collect it and redistribute it for the most part, except for the small percentage that Commissioner Mixon mentioned. But I think Commissioner Warren's onto something here. Now that we've set this county up for success financially, I think in the future, we need to look really hard at giving the money back to the people that is above and beyond the growth that occurs. And I'm not patting myself or this board on the back, but we were the only political subdivision that I know of in Sarpy County that has lowered the tax rate twice in the last 5 years. No one else has done that. So I think we just need to keep that trend going, moving forward. And Commissioner Warren's already made that commitment publicly, and he's a pretty convincing fella. So I'm sure he'll pull the rest of us along on that as well, because it just makes sense at the end of the day. I'm a little disappointed no one came today, because I really thought people would come to provide their feedback and let us know what they think. But I get it. Everybody's working so they can pay their taxes, and they can't take off work to come talk to us. But I don't want any of our citizens to think that this county board doesn't hear you loud and clear, because we do. And we appreciate your feedback and your inputs, and we're going to work really hard to lower your tax bill in the coming years.
I just wanted to say thank you so much to Bill and Jenny for all their hard work on the budget. It's a really heavy lift. I also want to thank our budget committee members who give us the guidance on the deeper dive here. Thanks to those folks, we were able to lower the levy last year, and we're maintaining that lowered levy this year, which is hard to do when you weigh all of the financial decisions that have to be made. We have a lot to consider when we look at the budget and how to vote through those things that are there. And all of the commissioners have had good things to say here about what we should look at going forward. In our things that we have in the hopper now, one of the big things is the sewer agency, which is going to be a once-in-a-lifetime unified effort to bring sewer to southern Sarpy County. And that weighs for me heavily on making sound financial decisions to have that backstop for that agency. So I think what we have here with the guidance of Bill Conley and his group and our budget committee is something sound that's fiscally responsible and has looked at all the details and done the hard job of trying to make the best possible financial decisions we can make at this time. So I appreciate everyone's hard work. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
I believe we do not need the executive session. Okay, and so all agenda items having been addressed as published, the Board of Commissioners is adjourned.
Yeah, that's this guy. Yes, you can do real quick. What's that? Yeah. You told me. But it's for sure
Yeah.
running it. They fully believe that they will be running both in perpetuity.
Who's gonna, any prospects? Yeah. Yeah, he came recommended by,
Building that infrastructure.
and, yeah, and,
And that's a job.